Welcome to the Sleep is a Skill podcast. My name is Molly McLaughlin, and I own a company that optimizes sleep through technology, accountability, and behavioral change. Each week, I'll be interviewing world-class experts ranging from doctors, innovators, and thought leaders to give actionable tips and strategies that you can implement to become a more skillful sleeper. Let's jump into your dose of practical sleep training. Welcome to the Sleep is a Skill podcast. My guest today is Nicole Carlson out of Sunlighten infrared saunas. So why the heck are we doing a podcast on infrared saunas on a sleep podcast? Well, it can be a really helpful tool in your quest to improve your sleep. Now, if you want to get into the science on it, many of you might be familiar, but if not, Rhonda Patrick provides a ton of information. A quick Google with her will give you the science of this. And today we're going to go more deeply into the specifics around sleep and sauna usage in particular. So, while Rhonda Patrick's will look at from a holistic element of things for overall health and well-being, we are going to go deep on sleep specifically and also understand how to navigate this world of infrared saunas, what's worth investing in, what's not, and also understand some of the practical applications of sauna usage as it relates to what time of the day you want to lean into this, for how long will you be utilizing this in general, so the dosage, but also the length. Is this a lifetime thing? How often will you do it throughout the week? All of that. And I've been actually fortunate enough to test out their solo unit, which is pretty cool. It almost looks like, we call it like an igloo over here, and but it expands, so it folds into itself, and then it expands like an accordion to your full body length. But it's a hard shell, so it's not like one of those little bag things you get into, and it's like, kind of feel gross and sticky at the end. It has a kind of dome-like shape. So it's interesting if you want, if you have like a small apartment or something, or you just, you're single and you don't need much more than just the solo unit size of things. That could be something really cool to look into. But certainly if you want to look into the actual, kind of multi-person units, then they've got some really cool stuff. But as well as helping to navigate the market in general, whether it's Sunlighten or another company, what to look for. Now, without further ado, I wanted to read you a little bit about Nicole. Now, Nicole has a passion for helping others through education, consulting, and training within the health industry. Her goal is to provide holistic modalities that heal, improve, and preserve health. She specializes in scientific-based yet natural approaches to healing and life balance. She is committed to offering cutting-edge wellness services that empower clients to reach their health goals quickly. Nicole holds degrees in psychology and sociology, as well as a certification in functional nutrition. So without further ado, let's jump right into the podcast. And if you do have any sort of questions, don't hesitate to go over to sleepisaskill.com. You got a little sleep bot on there where you can pop in any of your questions that you might have. Now, before we get into the podcast, I do want to take a quick minute to give a shout out to our sponsor, BetterHelp, or as I like to call it, a therapist in your pocket. It's the exact app that I used when I was going through my really challenging period of insomnia while traveling overseas. And the ability to maintain a consistent therapist in real life was just really not an option for me since we were jumping around from country to country. So the ability to, with using my phone, have video calls weekly with my therapist. I was paired with I connected with a great therapist right off the bat, but I do know other people who have been able to kind of shop around with some of the therapists on that app until they find a great fit for them. And in between those calls, one of the things that I found was really helpful is that you can also send voice notes, text messages, images in between that, longer weekly video call, so that you do have this really very real ongoing connection and support that I certainly, at least in my experience, hadn't felt with real life therapists that I had used in the past. And also the pricing structure is much more competitive than a lot of the real life therapists that you can come into contact with. So I found it to be a lot of benefits. I recommend it to a lot of people that are just kind of going through struggles in their life or just simply want to be able to up level and bring in that level of reflection and awareness into their life about what's both working and not working. And you can certainly cancel at any time. And for our sleepy community, the BetterHelp company has hooked hooked us up with 10% off if you go to betterhelp.com/sleep is a skill. Again, betterhelp.com/sleep is a skill. And welcome to the Sleep is a Skill podcast. Nicole, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, we had the opportunity to have a nice lengthy phone conversation a while back, unpacking your company and how infrared saunas can be a really interesting and a complement for people that are looking to improve their sleep. So I can't wait to get into it with you today. So I thought we could just start at the beginning of your origin story, how it is that you got interested in infrared saunas and why this particular company.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I am like a health and wellness self-proclaimed junkie.
Amazing.
So that's kind of, I guess, the overall, how and why. Yeah, I've been in health and wellness for more years than I will share because that makes me admit how old I am. But
amazing.
But yeah, so, I've been with Sunlighten for a few years. I was so impressed, with their product. And one of the things that I loved most was just all the science that they have surrounding their products specifically. And so to me, it was like this perfect blend of, Eastern and Western. And so I love the fact too that it can help anyone from, 1 to 101. I truly believe there's not a single person on earth that cannot benefit from the product we have. And that's just an incredible feeling. And I've always been a helper and always have wanted to care for people. And so I thought, well, I just feel like now I have an opportunity to care for, a huge variety of people versus just niches, which is kind of what I was doing before I joined Sunlighten. So I'm just so proud of our product and the science behind it and the ability it has to really improve and change lives.
Wow. Amazing. Well, I can hear the passion for sure. That's excellent. And I definitely, in our phone conversation, I also got that from you. And I'd love to go deeper on that passion and what has this company stand out for you on your website right now. And it proclaims to be the #1 doctor and consumer recommended brand. And so I'm wondering if you can go a little bit deeper on the why of that. Why is this kind of a chosen brand for so many, and what makes it different? Like, why can't we just go to a Costco and get our infrared sauna or find the best deal? And is that enough? And why is that not enough?
Yeah, that's a great question and completely valid, and one that we definitely do get. So I'd love to answer that. So Sunlighten is so different. Essentially, it boils down to the science, which I mentioned earlier. Sure. We have over 56 clinical third-party studies relating back to our product specifically. So if you're looking at other infrared, and I always encourage people to do the due diligence, do the research, because you're not going to find what Sunlighten has to offer. Most of the time, you're just finding general information surrounding infrared, but not specifically back to their product. So that's kind of the #1 reason. And unfortunately, all saunas they're not created equal. So to your point about go to Costco or, Amazon or something. So most saunas, a lot of them are actually manufactured. There's a handful of large manufacturers in China that really make a lot of the saunas that are out there. And then the companies just buy them and relabel them essentially. So they're all kind of the same, and they may, change something slightly, but again, they're not going to have that science relating back to their product and proving how it's going to help you and the benefits that, the end user is going to receive. When Sunlighten was created, and by the way, I think this is another reason, we are almost we're almost to our 22 years in business. So, we have that trust with doctors and people in the health and wellness space because we have so much history and because we've been around for so long. I mean, this is what we do. This is our expertise. We don't claim to know about, a lot of other things. We solely focus on infrared and light therapy. And we have a lot of years to prove that. And so I think that in combination with the science that we have behind the product, that's why we have so many partners and really are the leader in light therapy. We patented our heaters many moons ago, I guess you could say now. And we did all of that research and those patents based on NASA research, like the way that we created our heaters to deliver the infrared into the body was based on the NASA research. Because obviously, so infrared, and some people may or may not know this depending on your familiarity with infrared and light therapy, but infrared is what astronauts use in space if they were to get cut or injured. Obviously, if without it, they would just continue to bleed. And we all know that wouldn't be a good
Right.
thing. So the patent that we have on our heaters, that's what makes it different. And essentially what that says, to kind of just boil it down in layman's terms, is we were able to figure out, there is a specific wavelength at which the body absorbs the infrared most effectively. And so we were able to figure out, and that's one of the patents, how to do that at that exact wavelength so that you're getting, with our saunas, actually 99% of that infrared wavelength. And so that's how it's patented. That's one of the patents we have. The other one on our heaters has to do with, we are really the only, if people start looking into infrared, they're going to see the term full spectrum used. Everyone talks about it. So what that means is full spectrum would be far infrared, mid infrared, and near infrared. So with our full spectrum, which I would say are really truly the only actual full spectrum, in that we're delivering far, mid, and near. And so the reason ours is different is we also have a patent. We're the only ones that are able to deliver far, mid, and near separated out on the same heater panel. So that you're surrounded by the far, the mid, and the near at all times if you're in our impulse line, which delivers the far, the mid, and the near. So you're getting all of those wavelengths. The quantity and the quality essentially of what you're getting. Whereas other full spectrum saunas that are claiming to be on the market, are they delivering far, mid, and near? Yes, they are. But the problem becomes, or the issue, I guess, becomes, they're typically delivering them with a ceramic heater that is placed at the front of the sauna. So they may have the far infrared panels surrounding you, but at the front is going to be a couple of these really, quickly, they heat the saunas up, they blast a lot of heat. And do they deliver far, mid, and near? Technically they do. The problem is they're not delivering them consistently. So you really have no idea how much of any of those wavelengths that you're getting. But with Sunlighten, you're always getting the far, the mid, and the near as well. You have to think about, and we can talk a little bit more about this on down, but because there's different benefits for far, mid, and near, which we can chat about, but as they're named, far, mid, and near, that's also equal to the distance that they travel. So far is the one that travels the furthest into the body, whereas mid and near don't travel as far, and you actually have to be in pretty close proximity to the mid and the near in order to receive it. And so the problem with that is those ceramic heaters are so incredibly hot that you just physically are not able to sit close enough to them in order to absorb those mid and near wavelengths. So although they're delivering the wavelength, you're not receiving it. So now you don't know the quantity, nor do you know the quality of the infrared that you're, hoping to get. And so that's a huge distinction between Sunlighten and anyone else, because you do know the quantity and the quality, and you are surrounded by far, mid, and near, which all have, different benefits, as well as, those always on at all times, because we have those far, mid, and near separated out in different sections within the heater.
Really interesting. I'm wondering if you could go a little bit deeper on the far, mid, and near, and why those are important for people that maybe haven't gone as deep in the research on this yet, or they're just considering loosely getting an infrared sauna, but they, haven't understood which ones are important for them. And so, of course, you're speaking to this full spectrum. So you're getting arguably the ability with your model then to get all of these. So with each one of those, why are those so important?
Yeah, absolutely. So The FAR is kind of like what I call like the father of them all, right? I mean, that's really, that's one that travels the farthest. It goes actually into the cell. It heats the cell up and gives your body a 3-degree rise in core body temperature. So that 3-degree rise is really where all the magic happens. That's, it's kind of, I guess you could consider it like a false fever, right? So, bodies work and how beneficial, fevers can be. And so you're getting a false fever, and that's really what forces the toxins out. So when you start to detox, so many amazing things happen from, things like muscle recovery to better sleep to, lowering blood pressure, cardiovascular, like there's so many things that happen. And so really, FAR is really what makes you sweat, because again, that's has that rise in your temperature. So you're sweating, for those that may not know, like traditional, right, versus infrared. With a traditional sauna, you're sweating because, the air inside the sauna, that ambient air is being heated. So it's, not tons different than a sweat that you would have after exercise or outside on a hot day. Whereas with the infrared, you're going to be sweating because internally, you've got this temperature per se. So that's the difference between the two. So that kind of covers FAR. The mid and the near. So mid is really, really great so you're getting all benefits from FAR, but with mid and near, it's almost like it kind of levels up a notch with the benefits you receive. So it's going to make some things even more beneficial. So with the mid, it's going to help with muscle recovery, injury prevention. That's the beauty of the mid is really, it's all about the muscles. So whether it's, someone who's active to someone who's older, right? And they're more prone to injury. Maybe you have a surgery and you're trying to, recover those muscles. So there's a lot of benefit there. And the near, that is the one that we saw the length. So it's really great for, fine lines, wrinkles, cellulite, as well as things like eczema, psoriasis, even acne. So there's a lot of benefit in the near from kind of those, that's the one that doesn't travel as far. So you're really, it's skin, it's surface level.
So interesting. Okay, great. And then some of the benefits for people with this, of course, where sleep is a skill, looking for, or many of the people that are coming our way are having this difficulty with their sleep for a myriad of reasons. But, some of them being to this, hyper aroused brain state at night, kind of that inability of emotional regulation to turn off. Also, on a physiological standpoint, some things that are really just not working in a way that can help support great sleep. So, different issues around maybe autoimmune issues, blood pressure, just that relaxation element of things. So I'm wondering if we could speak to some of those and how this process or this ritual can help in people's sleep. And is that something that you hear people talking about a lot that utilize these, kind of breaking all that down?
Yeah, 100%. So actually, it's that's why I was so excited when we first connected, because we always, almost, I would say 99% of the time, the very first, benefit that someone seems to notice is better sleep.
Oh my gosh.
Almost hands down. And so, I think most of us, could use better sleep, whether it's, staying asleep through the night or, waking up and then not being able to go back to bed or just can't get to sleep in general, right? Like, as long as I've been in health and wellness, like I just constantly feel like I've been hearing that from people for years. And so that's what I love, is that you have that tangible kind of result that you get right away that I feel like everyone can benefit from. I can tell you, so personal note, I have 4 kids,
Yes.
so you can imagine that ranging from, I've got a daughter who's, a year and a half, and then I have 3 boys that are 13, 11, and 9. And so, we're busy, we're active, and then, I work, right? So we're super busy. And it's very hard, I think I'm kind of that type A personality. It's very hard for me to shut my brain off. It's always been difficult for me to shut my brain off and go to sleep. Now, I've not had a problem typically staying asleep, but I've had issues for sure going to sleep. And so when we started using our sauna, it is very rare for me just to fall asleep, for
Yes.
for really no reason. And I literally every time now, granted, I use mine at night, like when I have everyone settled and just kind of, I really use it as a tool to unwind, but almost every time I doze off. One of the things that's great about Sunlighten is that it is not so hot that you feel like you're having to endure your session. It truly is something that you enjoy and that is very pleasurable and relaxing. It's almost, if I could, I'm trying to think how I can describe it in words, but if I had to describe it in words, it's almost like this warm, cozy that you're wrapped up in. When I have used saunas before, I felt like, oh my gosh, like how many more seconds, because I feel like I can't breathe. I got to get out of here. Right. And some people love that. My personal experience, obviously, some of us maybe like the hotter the better. Right. But that's what's really great. And I think for for anyone who's listening, they're obviously, like you said, they're looking for that sleep. And I think that is going to be one of the very first things you find. Now, the why behind that and how the sauna works to deliver that sort of result is because, with that far infrared, so as it's, doing its magic and detoxing, one of the things that happens is it reduces those cortisol levels. And so typically, people that are having issues with sleeping on some level, they have some elevated cortisol levels, or maybe it could be blood pressure. I mean, there's so many things that go along with that, but it helps lower the blood pressure. It helps reduce those cortisol levels. And that all happens from delivering that far infrared into the cell and getting that 3-degree rise in the core body.
Wow. So well said. And, many of the people that are coming our way, there's, myriad of different camps, but there are the group that are very almost at putting in a biohacker type camp. And so they're becoming really aware of certain things in their environment that might be impacting their health and well-being. And so EMFs might come up more regularly in this group than the average group. And I know that your sauna points to its low EMF technology. I'm wondering if you could help break that down, because, there would be different saunas that might mention, oh, yes, we're low EMF. How do we know the difference? What do you guys do to test? Kind of just breaking down that topic.
Yeah, so we do have a test, and it's a third-party test, and you can find that on our website. But basically in our signature line, it's almost undetectable. It's less than 1. So it's like 0.0 something in our signature line. So it's definitely very low EMF. We have an impulse line, which I mentioned earlier, that's going to deliver the far, the mid, and the near. Now that one is slightly higher, still, low in my opinion. Everyone obviously has different thoughts, on that. But the only reason it's higher is operated by an Android tablet. So obviously, if you have a tablet, which let's be honest, most people are taking their tablets or their phones into their sauna anyway. But this is a really low EMF tablet. So on that, it's going to be maybe around 10 or 12 if you have the tablet. Great thing about that is that the tablet, the Impulse, has 6 preset wellness programs in it, which I love. That's what we have. We have an Impulse. We have a Conquer. It's a 3-person model, is like almost literally like twice the size of me. And so we can both get in there. He's 6'3", 240. I'm like 125.3. So we can both get in there and be super comfortable, which I love. But, that one has those preset wellness programs. And so those wellness programs range from anti-aging to pain relief, to detox, to muscle recovery. There's relaxation. That's so depending on how you're feeling that day. Like I am one who has always tended to be really in tune with my body, probably. I wish I was a little less in tune with it, actually. And so, you can really, it's great because it has those customized programs. So you can just use them, as you feel needed as well. You can create your own. There's a space for you to create your own program. But that one does have, like I said, it's between like 10 and 12, just depending on, how many things you have going on the tablet at once. But still, if you compare that to an actual tablet or cell phone, those numbers are 100, huge, right?
Yeah.
A blow dryer is like, I think 50 or 60 something off the top of my head. So it's still relatively low. But if you're really, really into wanting that, almost you're going to want the signature line because it's so low.
Very interesting. So you've created this whole line of different options for people. So no matter where they might be on the spectrum of their interest around infrared, it looks like there's different options. And this solo system is
Mhm.
interesting too. Is that a newer offering, or what's that look like?
So the Solo is actually our I mean, obviously we've updated over the years, but
Yes.
that's what we built the company on.
What? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So it's
Very
been
cool.
yeah. So the Solo, for those that may not know, so that's a portable unit, which is amazing. It also telescopes in. It's two domes that telescope into one another, as well as like a pad. And so when it's collapsed, it can go, it's about the size of like, say, a large laundry hamper. It can go, in a corner, in a closet, behind a door. I mean, there's a lot of options for people who maybe, don't have the space or just don't even want to look at the sauna all the time and just pull it out, when they need it. And so that's part of our signature line. It's far infrared. That is a wonderful, wonderful unit. It gets hot really quickly. It's super comfortable. You lay down on the pad and then you would pull the dome up over you. So your head's not in it, but it's like shoulders on down. And you have really great control over the heaters in that one, because you can control the dome heaters as well as in the pad that you're laying on. It's a really great way to get into the infrared, get all the benefits, but also have it portable. Or if you travel, or we actually have a lot of athletes that love that because they do
Mm.
travel, back and forth to whether it's training camp and then they're back at home and wherever it is that they're playing. So it's really great for that use, as well as we've got a lot of day spas and massage therapists that use that too. So it's a great option. And then we have traditional cabin units, as most people may be more
Mhm.
familiar with, from one person all the way up to 5-person. And we do custom saunas as well if you're really needing something customizable for a specific space.
So interesting. Yeah. On the athlete topic, as far as muscle recovery and then
Mhm.
branching over into pain management, I'm wondering if you could share more about the why of how that does help make a difference for those concerns for people.
Yeah, so it really has to do with, so another one of the benefits of, the infrared is that when it's delivered into the body, it delivers, it creates the heat shock proteins. So it activates those heat shock proteins to start helping with, cellular recovery and muscle recovery. It increases blood flow, which obviously helps with muscle recovery. And so as it's increasing the blood flow, that's where you're going to get the help with the injury prevention and muscle recovery. So we do have a lot of athletes that use our product, physical therapists, all the way from, children. I can tell you, my boys are super active. They love getting in the sauna. They use it almost as much as we do. Not necessarily now, because unfortunately, all their sports haven't been, going on as usual, but it's been a great piece even for them. And then on up to obviously professional. We're really proud. City owned and operated. So if there's any football fans out there, you might know that Kansas City won the Super Bowl, and Patrick Mahomes is our quarterback, and he actually was hurt last season and used his impulse to help with recovery. They have one in their home, he and Brittany, and yeah, so that's just a couple examples from just a couple of kids all the way up to big time, and a lot of help with recovery. I mean, I personally actually broke my foot last summer,
Mm.
and it was amazing because everything they were telling me. I mean, I'm a runner, and so it was like devastating to me to not be able to like get that that fix. And I was so fortunate because I actually ended up being back and up and running again in about half the time that they told me. So, the only thing I can say is that, I know that I was using the infrared to help with that. So,
Mm. Yeah, no, it's so great that you're pointing to that, because we will have different people that pain might keep them awake, or surgeries, things that can be
mhm.
disruptive to their sleep position. So having that ability to help expedite all that is wonderful, or expedite and alleviate. And then on your website too, you also point to autoimmune problems for people, and
Yes.
how, yeah, this can really help. And many of the people that are coming our way might have some element of this, whether it's, the Lyme, rheumatoid arthritis, thyroid issues. And I do like that you also put in mold in here, which has been
Yes.
quite a reoccurring area for people around their sleep. So wondering if you could break that some of those down, what you've heard from people and how that's impacted, of course, their sleep, if they've spoken to that in particular too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of our really longtime partners is Dr. Dietrich Klinghart of the Klinghart
Sure.
Academy.
Yep.
We've been partners with him for so long. He's kind of doing his own and off, enjoying life. But
Yes.
Debbie Floyd is the one who we still are working very actively with Debbie. In fact, she's the one who really ran the Klinghart Academy for Dr. Klinghart. And so they have actually, speaking of like the autoimmune diseases, the mold, all of that, they have included our infrared in their protocols. And this is
Mm.
what they actually suggest to, they have a large clinic, they teach physicians and clinicians as well and kind of use those protocols. And so it's deeply enriched in that. So anyone who has mold, or, I think a lot of people are aware of the Klinghart Academy and all the amazing work that they have done over the years. And so,
Yeah.
so the reason, it all comes back to that 3-degree rise in the core body temperature with the far infrared. And so, essentially what happens is when you get that, the sweat is actually, we've tested this, the sweat is actually 20% toxic. So if you're talking sweat from another type of sauna, what you typically find is a 1 to 2% toxin release. But with Sunlighten, it's drastically different in that you're getting about a 20% toxin release. And so that is why it has worked so wonderfully for people that have or rheumatoid arthritis or fibromyalgia, as well as mold. A big piece in recovery for people suffering with those things is definitely helping them detox. And so the sauna is wonderful because it does that much quicker than most things out there.
Oh yeah. Well, that's so interesting about the percentage.
Mhm.
So and then so how do they do, because I know that I was really interested too when we first had our conversation and you were speaking to some of these different studies that you guys have been a part of. So in something like that, is that different of almost like getting external other models and then testing the resulting sweat from those as a group, or is that in an external study? How does that's so interesting. I love that.
Yeah, that was an external study that was done, and now we didn't do the study on other saunas.
Okay.
That was not internal,
Sure.
an external study, but there was a study done on the sweat received from our saunas, and we're taking it a bit further because what we're now is seeing if we can find out, because one of the things we would, we're very innovative and we're always, cutting edge, and our CEOs are incredible, and really they're co-CEOs, Connie and Aaron Zach, and they started this company because Connie's brother was really, really sick with mercury and some other things many years ago. And at the time, there wasn't a great way for him to get infrared. There was like these little panels that he kind of rotated around. And so they set out on this, journey to make infrared, put it in a form that would be really easy and more accessible for others. And of course, 25 years ago, they had no idea how many people would be sick and tired, if they could look in the future, but that's kind of where we are. And so it's always been so important to them to stay on the forefront. And so one of the things we're looking at doing is figuring out not only, so we know now how much, right? But we want to know what's coming out. So we're
Mm.
working on that, like to have a test that kind of says, and obviously that's going to vary from person to person, but something that we can encourage people to do once we kind of, figure it out. But that's one of the things we're working on now, is we can find out, what that is. And you'll find when you're, using our sauna, this is a different sweat than what most people are used to. This is a
Mm.
thicker, a more viscous. It's often contains odors not familiar with that are definitely anything but pleasant. Varies, from one person to another, because we all have, such a different such a different toxic load, right? We all have different things coming out. Typically, it actually takes a few times in the sauna before you're really going to start to sweat, because your body's trying to like overcome, the blockages, right? That have happened in the skin and in the cells. And so typically it takes a little bit longer. And then, depending on the toxic load, how much you have. So, I can tell you, like when we use the sauna, I sweat not right away, but then when it comes, heavy for me, but it's usually more towards the middle and the end when I'm really getting, sweaty, and it is very thick. Whereas my significant other, he is almost immediately just dripping, in sweat. And I find that so interesting. And I always tell him, I'm like, well, that's because you're putting things in your body that I tell you not to. But so I think his toxic load is high, but yeah, so it really does vary. And that's what you can kind of expect. But that's why it helps with all of those things, is because it really gets in there and it detoxes you, 20%. There's not much out there you can do to get rid of 20% of the toxins that are in your body at once. And the beautiful thing about it is your skin continues to glow. It's kind of like that glow, that you'll get after like a HIIT workout, or it's kind of like stays with you, right? So that's what's really great. And the pores stay open. It's not like they close right away. They stay open. I try really hard for a little bit afterwards, because I know I can tell, it takes time. It's not like that it's not like you get out of the sauna and, the sauna turns off and you're done, right? Like your body is still working, is still detoxing. So that's what's really wonderful too, is it continues on even after you're not in the sauna.
So interesting. And you do mention on your website too, this difference between the different lighting source. So the halogen bulbs versus LEDs, and then compare other saunas out, that are on the market that might use ceramic. How do we make sense of all of these and what is beneficial for different people?
Yeah, so that's I had mentioned that a little bit earlier. I touched on the ceramic heaters that are used in a lot of saunas.
Sure.
And, if you think about a ceramic heater, when do you normally think about a ceramic heater? Prior to being with Sunlighten, I thought of a ceramic heater winter. We're in Kansas and Missouri, it's cold, and, we get nice winters. And, so I pull out my Target or Walmart space heater, right? That's typically a ceramic heater. So there's not a lot of, necessarily I ceramic heater, but that's just not really the case. And so a lot of times why those people, why other companies use them is just because it's an inexpensive way to make the sauna super, super hot. And so it gives you this idea that, oh, I'm hot, I'm sweating, look at all these, benefits, right? The great thing about the LED lights is it parses it out. So we know you're getting, all the different wavelengths. We know the exact quantity because we can put that, we can take that and separate it out by using LED lights versus just, these heat lamps essentially, or ceramic heaters that just really their main purpose in the sauna is really just to heat it. And so when you think about, what we mentioned earlier is just heating that ambient air around you. Essentially that's what those do. Whereas the infrared is heating you with the LEDs, it's heating you from the inside out, not from the outside.
So interesting. So then I'm wondering too, you mention, these different wavelengths. Can you help guide people because I think sometimes too, when you're looking online of all these different options, then you can get lost in the wording and, say all these nanometers and 800, 900 nanometers.
Microns. Yeah.
Yes. All of that. I wonder if you could help us decode some of the verbiage and, kind of what we need to be on the lookout for.
Yeah. So, the most important thing with the far infrared is, so your body absorbs the different wavelengths, far, mid, and near, at a different wavelength. So for instance, for far infrared, we have discovered based on that NASA 9.4 microns is really the level at which it absorbs that infrared energy best. And so we have made sure that we deliver at that specific 9.4. And so for far and mid and near, you have to consider, not everybody needs mid and near infrared. So really it comes down to, and near isn't what makes you sweat. So if you're looking at this because you want health benefits such as, better sleep and detoxification and lowering your blood pressure and cardiovascular work and all of those muscle recovery, if that's what you're wanting, then far infrared is where it's at. Near infrared is a beautiful wavelength. And I I love it and I am a huge fan of it, but you're not detoxing because of near infrared. You're improving your skin, right? And so if that's important for you, then near infrared is really, really great. My mom has been suffering with skin cancer for many years due to which she always will, due to a kidney transplant, but she's on these medications that lower, keep her immune system lowered. So her body, can't fight it off as if it was me, right? With sun exposure that I may have had in my earlier years. So one of the things that has helped in her recovery, which of course, detox is still great for her, but the near infrared has been a blessing because she was going every 3 months, having things removed and small surgeries, and it's tiresome. As soon as she recovered, she was back in there, right? So the near infrared is really, really great for just, those more skin levels, but the far infrared is what's going to help her detox and kind of build her immunity and, help her body fight it off. But the near is also going to help shrink it and keep it at bay. So they're just so different based on what your needs are. And anyone who's into muscle recovery and, injury prevention, they're going to want the mid. But if those things if you're not super active, you're not that interested in that, if it doesn't make a huge deal to you, if you really don't care about the near, then there's no reason that you need to have it. They're really also specific based on what your goals are for your health and your best life.
So well said. So I was wondering too, for some of since you speak with so many people that are using these, have you found any sort of best practices that people will point to when they are really having great results with their sleep, as far as the timing that they utilize on that? Definitely there's differing opinions on, oh yeah, you got to use it in the morning. It will just totally kickstart you. It will blah, 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 all these things. Or you got to use it at night. This will relax you and this will help assist with the circadian rhythm and the drop in body temperature after. So what have you found? Have there been different schools of thought or any overarching recommendations that you guys tend to make?
Yeah. So, I would say we're all such unique bio individuals and it really does vary. So I can't say, you should try it at this time for this many minutes. It's really kind of a trial and error and seeing what works for you. I can tell you hands down for me, night is definitely the time to use it. In fact, my entire family, that's our preference. And it's not because we're not up. I'm up at 5:30 every day and that's when I work out. And, but for me, I want it after a long day of being active to help unwind. So you really just have to kind of try it out and see. Overall, my gut is, if you're using it for sleep, my gut tells me, use it in the evening as part of your kind of that, whatever your routine is for unwinding, use it as that. But there's definitely, but I have friends that use it in their sleep. But, so I only say that just based on my own experience. So I can't say there's one way to do it. I think it's what works for you and your body.
Got that. And then just lastly, I know you don't say this explicitly on your website, but I'm just wondering if anecdotally, if people have mentioned about, and I guess it would go under the umbrella of the relaxation benefit, but some of the different research around depression and anxiety, but certainly some interesting studies around depression being linked with inflammation and benefiting from heat therapy. And so I'm just wondering if you've heard of different people speaking to that around their depression lowering. And of course, that's a big one for sleep disturbances too. Is that anything you've noticed people speak to?
Yeah, 100%. Mental health is, there's a lot of benefits with mental health, whether it's, like you said, depression or anxiety. And one of our partners is Dr. Caroline Leaf. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but
I was just speaking with her actually.
Oh, you were?
Yes. Yeah.
How funny. Yeah. We love her. And obviously she knows all about everything, mental health. She's a huge advocate for Sunlighten, and she has a lot of, research behind infrared and depression and anxiety and mental health. And so she's a wealth of knowledge, but for sure it does. And it's because, like you said, a lot of those issues stem from, like I mentioned earlier, but cortisol and even gut health and, all of these things. And again, the wonderful thing about our light therapy at Sunlighten is that it really does help with all of those things, because that far infrared, just that 3-degree rise in core body temperature, just does so much and helps, repair everything from, gut to blood pressure to, helping the circadian rhythm, as, just really kind of gets the body working again. It's almost like it helps take that load off of, a lot of times, your body gets stuck in like this fight mode so whatever it is that you're dealing with, your body ends up spending so much time doing that versus just what it's supposed to do. Right. And
Right.
so it's like it gets stuck. And so that's what's amazing about our light. It takes that load off your body and does some of the work for you so that your body can really focus on what it should. So in the meantime, it helps with regulating the circadian, helping with, gut and inflammation, because inflammation is so huge. And it can even help if you've yet to kind of clean your diet up, because there's a lot of link between diet and sleep.
Yes. Mm.
And mental health as well. And so things that maybe aren't great, aren't helping your cause. So
Makes a lot of sense. Wow. Well, there's so many things here, and I'm sure it piques interest for a number of people. And, I guess one of my last questions would just be, so as far as for women and, the infradian rhythm, so as it relates to their hormones at different parts of their cycle, and then moving into menopause, and then just that really can be frustrating experience with their regulation of temperature and then sleep disturbances. Is that something that you find for people that are coming to you to help navigate those changes for women, that this can be something that they can really have in their toolbox?
yes, absolutely. In fact, we work with, I'm not sure if anyone out there, if you're having hormone issues, you may be familiar with Magdalena with Hormones Balance, or Dr. Anna Kabeka. They're both partners of ours, and they speak a lot to this and recommend our light therapy to help with balancing hormones and regulating that body temperature. By giving you an increase body temperature, it does help regulate the temperature, because again, it's taking some of that load off, which I just talked about a minute ago, taking some of the load off so your body can get back to actually regulating throughout the day when you're not in the sauna. So yeah, they both have some great information about infrared and works with, balance hormonally, whether you're pre or post menopausal.
So great. Wow. Well, thank you so much. I keep asking you questions and I want to be respectful of your time. So I'm like, okay, I'll stop. But really, really helpful. And, I'm sure, again, you piqued interest for people. So for people that are looking to embark on this conversation of, okay, I want to bring heat therapy into my routine and help support all of these things that we've touched on. And part of this concern around our getting great and regular and optimized sleep, where can they find you? What's the best way to go about that? Follow you, etc.
Yeah, definitely. You can follow us on Instagram or Facebook, just Sunlighten Saunas. You can go to our website. It's just www.sunlighten.com. Make sure you mention that you heard us on this podcast, because if you do, we're going to offer $200 off any of our saunas plus free shipping, which is normally $598. So we would love to talk to you. We have an amazing team of people that are on the phone or on chats that would be happy to answer any additional questions that you have as well. We just love, help people, and really what you'll find is you'll contact us, and we're going to talk to you about what are your goals for living your best life, and we're going to help you find the right choice and the right infrared wavelength that's going to help you reach those goals. So we would love to chat with you, and make sure you mention Molly and Sleep is a Skill so that you can get a discount.
Oh, Nicole, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time and educating us on this, really important topic in the 21st century of how to, process the levels of stress and toxins and, just the whole unraveling all that's there for people to help be able to, as you put it, live their best life. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was so great to chat.
Thank you. You've been listening to the Sleep is a Skill podcast, the #1 podcast for people who want to take their sleep skills to the next level. Every Monday, I send out something that I call Molly's Monday Obsessions, containing everything that I'm obsessing over in the world of sleep: head on over to sleepisaskill.com to sign up.